Welcome to the Story Tinker podcast, a place for in-depth analysis of stories, mainly from Webtoon. Co-hosted by sharp, witty, and dare I say, thirsty fans, we dive deep in every episode, analyzing character struggles, relationship development, and of course, theories. We also interview people working in creative industries. You can follow the Story Tinker on YouTube, podcast platforms, and social media. For bonus content, sneak peeks, and more, you can support the Story Tinker on Patreon. We're really appreciative of your likes, subscribes, follows, comments, and ratings on all platforms. Thanks for listening to the Story Tinker, and let's get started. All right, here we go. Okay, welcome to episode 159 of Let's Play. And we are continuing right after the blood drive. We are seeing her apartment. They're walking in some front entrance area, which I don't think we've quite seen it from this angle before. And she says, Sam says, you didn't have to drive me home, Charles. Sure you want to get home and unwind. Like, it's all right, but yeah, I don't mind. Which is, I'm like, I think he wants to maybe unwind with you. Like, that was my first thought. Like, don't tell yourself short.
You thought I wanted to unwind? You should be able to help me with that.
And so like, how's your head feeling? Sore, but it'll be fine. I think a hot shower would set me right. Which, once again,
I keep giving her all these ideas.
I know. I'm so terrible. Not terrible.
That's not terrible. Showers are awesome
normal
with your significant other.
I actually am not a fan, but
really? It's a thing. It's a thing.
No, I'm okay with it, but it's not sexy to me. It's just not. I don't know. It's just like, I'll do it if he wants it, but like I don't. Even just taking a shower to get clean together, for me, that's just awesome.
I'm very happy for you. I have found that logistically it just doesn't work for me and my husband. Like, we're in each other's way. Our shower's too small.
Like tiptoe around each other to reverse the soap or whatever. Yeah. But, my parents are gonna kill me. I remember my parents taking showers together, not for sexy reasons, I'm pretty sure, because we only had one shower in our house. And like we were all getting ready at once, so I'm 100% sure it was like logistically just to like get showered faster. So I did grow up with my parents doing that. So
that's funny.
TMI about Mindy's parents. Please don't tell them myself. They're like,
Mom, don't watch this episode.
Thank God I didn't watch any episode. All right. And she's like, that sounds like a great idea. Totally. I think if there was any innuendo planned, it went over her head.
Totally over her head.
And she pauses, looks down, looks a little sad, and says, Charles, did you mean what you said about my dad at the blood drive? About being under duress?
So glad they're discussing this.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Everyone sees their parents. But the way that a child sees the parent is not necessarily the way that like an employee sees the parent or whatever, any other type of relationship. And I think that Mr. Young's behavior, I think she can we'll discuss it as we go through it, but I'm glad that she realizes that it has to be talked about and she doesn't want him to feel forced into anything.
Well, and she recognizes it. I mean, when they were in the restaurant discussing the potential of a relationship, she mentioned, I don't even know what my dad would do if I had a boyfriend. I mean, she knows his behavior. She knows he's intense. So I don't think she's too surprised, but I don't know. She looks concerned for her, Charles.
And she asks, does he really make you feel like you're under that much pressure? Which I find a little funny because on the way she's asking it, it makes it seem as though she doesn't feel that pressure from him. But we know she does because she can't even tell him she doesn't want to be like continuing the company. So,
and she responds to his antics with anxiety. I mean, when he was on the ground, Charles, help, So I don't know. She's sometimes she stands up to him pretty easily, but other times she's falling for his behavior, I guess you could say, his tantrums.
Is a good word.
And that could be part of like how she sees their relationship. Like you said, other people outside of a parent-child dynamic have a different perception and a different relationship with that parent, with that person. So she might be surprised that she reacts that way sometimes to her dad, but she's surprised that Charles might feel
Of all
similar.
people too,
Yeah.
right? Because remember, she's only recently realized that Charles is not up here on this pedestal and always cool and always collected. She's only recently discovered this. And so now to hear that he is feeling like he's under duress when he's in certain situations when it comes to her father, that's probably got to be pretty shocking for her, I guess.
Yeah. And her look is really concerned for him. Sam's, one of her strengths is her genuine caring for other people. And, it's just perfectly exhibited in that look that she gives him. And he says, Samara, I don't wish to speak ill of your father. I don't think it would be fair to you. Just nice. He's already respecting his future father-in-law.
But he did break my phone with his bare hands. I mean, sorry.
The blood drive is very important to him. He wants to give back to the community for giving blood and saving both you and your mother on separate occasions. And this makes me feel guilty.
I think this is sorry, what?
This makes me feel guilty for not getting blood more often.
Yeah, I really liked that he saw this though, because I didn't even actually think about the reason why blood donation was so important for Mr. Young, and the way he talks about it, it's just very on the nose for him, realizing why he does this and
probably
what observations.
I feel like he must. I don't think that's something you could extrapolate, even knowing she was sick. I think like Mr. Young must have said that at some point.
Maybe, yeah. It wasn't too long ago that he found out about his wife, though, so he had to at least extrapolate that part of it, because that was a new revelation. He has always known about Samara and his situation with Samara, but
yeah. And he continues, your father wants to lead by example, and he's always the first one in line to donate. So him asking me to lead the charge is an honor because he trusted such an important task. Trusted me with such an important task. I'm sure you're aware that your father can be intense, but the pressure I felt today, it wasn't because I felt obligated to donate. It's because I didn't want to disappoint him.
That's really sweet, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Remember when they were at the restaurant and he was talking about how he treated her the first year she worked there? Do you remember that conversation and how he was kind of testing her this whole time and didn't think that she was so different from her father that he didn't really see her value at first? He questioned it, and especially since she was destined to be the next CEO. But then he talked about their differences, and one was macro, one was micro. Remember that? I just remember him talking about Mr. Young in that instance and how he respects him as a very successful CEO. Sometimes I forget how he does respect him because we see how he acts when he throws his temper tantrums and his weeping and wailing, and he just kind of, yes, Mr. Young, or when she scraped her hand, he's just holding it up, just the way he responds in certain instances. I forget that he really does respect Mr. Young and his ability as a CEO and his boss. So
yeah, that is nice. Yeah, I mean, I totally get the feeling. I think one of the worst feelings in the world for me is, well, not exactly, I guess, parallel to disappointing people, but like, yeah, disappointing people and feeling people don't like me. Like, it's like the worst feeling, feeling like I did something wrong to deserve that. So, yeah, I looked at that aspect. And he continues, but I'll have disappointed him anyway. I fainted at the blood drive and needed Uma to take the team to lunch. I convinced him to go to Hawaii, telling him I had everything in hand. Instead, I fumbled an event that means a great deal to him. But it's likely that I'm being harder on myself than he ever will be.
I'm not so sure. Sorry. When he said that, it's like, I'm still not sure you're going to survive the next encounter.
Well, that's because of Sam.
That's true, not because of the blood donation.
Right.
What he doesn't know. But yeah, I mean, it's I'm glad that honestly, like for me, it's a development in Charles. Like
we were seeing how Sam doesn't, saw him go down from the pedestal. Now this is Charles voluntarily admitting his weaknesses and his anxiety. So I think that's great. I mean, it's not like he's been trying to put up a front with Sam, but I do think it's just healthy that he feels trusting enough to tell her things that he's worried about.
No, I agree.
And I also think it's healthy of him to recognize that he is likely being harder on himself than his boss will be in this particular instance. It's easy to beat ourselves up and to rehash situations over and over again. So it's a good reminder for us as a reader that when stuff happens and we are disappointed with how we reacted or behaved or how things turned out, we're likely being harder on ourselves than other people would be.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
No, I agree.
Mm.
Concur.
Yeah. And I think,
is this what I'm picking up?
Yeah. Laura.
Okay, so Sam is looking up at Charles, listening, really taking it in, and she can see how uncomfortable he is. He's not making eye contact with her, he's looking away. So she grabs his arm and says, "It's okay, Charles."
We
I
know
guess-
from
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. I was just going to point out again, we know from experience how her grabbing his arm like this affects him. Because she's done it many times where he's like, does she realize that she's nestling my arm in her breasts? And
I was just going to say
him.
that. Yeah, I was just going to say that because the panel like highlights that where she's nestling his arm. I don't know that she's aware. I don't know.
No.
I think so.
But to be honest, people with big bosoms, sometimes we're not aware where they are, to be honest.
So
much to work with.
I think she hasn't seen herself as a sexual being yet at this point.
That's true.
So I remember, I had pretty big boobs, and until I married my husband, I was like, they're so annoying. They're in the way, and now because of my darling husband's adulation of them, I'm like, okay, well, I have a great asset. I never thought of that way before.
Ample and cozy, according to Monkey, right? I love it.
Yeah, and I'm
adorable.
Actually aware of myself than I was when I was 20. So.
Mm-hmm.
And she's blossoming into that awareness of herself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so she looks at him and says, "I know my dad can be intense, but he can see reason." And Charles, this is startling to him. He jumps, but they're making eye contact. He looks down at her, and she continues, "I'm sure he'll understand if you explain what happened. You don't need to be so hard on yourself. I'm sure everything will be fine." Meanwhile, Charles is sweating.
Well, because where she's holding his arm. That's what he's thinking about.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And then he clenches his jaw and he looks away. His head is down. He's blushing. He's sweating. And Sam is like, "Oh, right. I forgot." And she removes her arm. She removes his arm. She's like, "Let's go, whatever."
Like she did before when she pushed him away. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't like that.
Yeah. And he reacts to that too. You can see he opens his eyes. He's startled by her stopping the physical contact. And she continues, "Anyway, even if Dad gave you trouble, he'd have to go through me, and I won't let anything happen to you."
She is part Papa Bear. She is part Mr. Young. So she does have that. We haven't seen it yet, but I know we've got a little Papa Bear, Mama Bear hidden inside of her.
I mean, we've seen glimpses of it when she told off that customer when he was so rude to Charles.
Yeah, and her brother even.
I don't remember that.
At the hospital when he was trying to warn her of Charles.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's interesting because I don't think Mr. Young normally talks about his employees with Sam, but I think in this case, she'll make sure that nothing happens to Charles. She'll be proactive about it.
I think with the donation that she definitely could hold her own. But I think when Mr. Young approaches her, if he approaches her or Charles about them sleeping together, I'm curious on how she's going to take it. Is that going to be too embarrassing for her that she hunkers down, or is she going to rise to the occasion and
Like, Dad, I'm
being
20
as
something.
pissed
leave me
off
alone.
as she should be.
Oh my
Excuse
God.
me. Yeah.
I don't know. You will find out, because like in order for her dad to know that they slept together, you know, she would have to know that he's been having someone tail her and spy on her. So like,
No,
She
That-
should be pissed.
yeah,
better
Yeah.
be.
She's in
clear
her
violation of
20s.
boundaries. Yeah,
She's definitely allowed.
right. Yeah.
And the thing is you need to be, even if Charles was a mistake, you need to be allowed to make mistakes. You need to be allowed to figure things out, to learn about yourself, learn about others. If you raise somebody in a bubble,
Mm.
when they're released, they don't know how to respond to the world. And that's what this story has really been about, because Sam has been raised in a bubble, and now she's slowly being able to experience the world around her, and she's learning so much more about herself, about her sexuality, about even just feeling like a woman and not a child.
Mhm.
This is a coming of age, coming to your own kind of
Using
story.
coming a lot is this very appropriate for this episode. Anyway,
I see what you did there.
this is the kind of joke I also could not have made at 20.
I love it. I'm going to be like, I'm going to notice every single time I say that word now this time. Thank you.
Sorry.
Would you like to step inside my
Oh,
Yes. So we continue on. And Charles
All right.
says, Samara, I wouldn't want for you to go against your father. And Sam is looking away, and she says, why not? It's not like he's going to fire me. You didn't do anything wrong. I wouldn't be able to stand by and watch if he gave you a hard time. At most, he'll whine and pout, but he'll back down. She's still looking away. He always backs down. I don't think people realize how much he's all bark and no bite. And Charles is looking at her, you know, listening. He's still sweating a little bit, still a little bit of a blush, and she's still looking away. A little bit of a pause. And then so Charles takes this time to change the subject.
Well, yeah. Can I
Yeah.
say one more thing?
Yeah.
Just this line right here. I don't think people realize how much he's all bark and no bite. And I feel like that's how we all saw him at the beginning. We saw that he was no bark, no bite, and all bark. But when we see that he's spying on her and being so shady, I'm not looking forward to this realization that Sam's going to have of what kind of man her father actually is.
Oh my gosh. I just had like a light bulb moment as we were talking. Okay, so Mr. Young is like so enmeshed with his daughter, right? Will not
And
let her
wife.
grow up.
Mhm.
His wife is like putting more boundaries up, right? And like
She
not
knows how
allowing-
to. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But Sam doesn't necessarily know how to do that yet. And that's like, I don't know. I kind of feel like boundaries with your parents is kind of a lifelong process. Yeah, but Mr. Young, like, I don't know. It feels like tentacles in Sam is the imagery that comes to mind. And the
Chain.
last panel in this chapter, I feel like is really similar.
I was just like, chains? You mean
Yeah.
chains?
Yeah.
that is a good
So,
one.
man, that's really interesting that somehow Sam has like gravitated towards this man who is like also very possessive.
I just feel
Wow.
like Charles and Mr. Young are so much more similar. I mean, when you see them at first, they're just night and day. And then you see them become more and more and more alike
Well,
as time goes on.
People are often attracted to people like their parents. So makes sense.
Mhm. Mhm, mhm.
I totally married my father 2.0. So in a very large aspect to the personality is very, very similar. So,
I did not marry my father.
no?
No.
Oh,
My father was a teddy bear, not a papa bear. He was a teddy bear. My dad passed away about 7 years ago, but when my husband, we were dating, and we decided to get married pretty quickly. And when my husband told my father gave him a big hug and said, "Thank you and welcome to the family." My father literally wrote him a thank you card for taking me off the market. when my husband was getting ready to go meet my family, he's like, "I'm really nervous to meet your father." And I laughed at him. I'm like, "My father is not the one you need to be scared of. It is my mother." And it is so true. Yes, it was so true.
That is very funny.
Is it my turn? No.
I don't remember what we're switching.
About
No, it's when the hug, right?
Oh, right.
Yep.
Sure. Yes. Okay. So Charles takes this beat in the conversation to change the subject, and he's noticed like she has been a little bit more distant since physically pulling away. So he says, "Samara, I apologize if I've come across as cold to you today." And she's still looking away. "It's all right, Charles. You don't have to explain. I pushed the line in the elevator today and got too close while at work. You made it clear that we shouldn't do that." "Yes, but..." "And I realize I am probably getting too familiar with you, and the nature of our relationship isn't like that." Oh, and she's still looking down and away. And now we just see like Charles'
His hands are in his
perspective.
pockets too. Just saying.
I feel like
Oh.
he looks very guilty. Like he feels sad that he caused her. That he.
Distress.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess his body language is, conveying that as well. Because he like hunched shoulders a little bit. Yeah.
And sweat drop. Worry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think like while all the things she's saying is true, I think that now he kind of doesn't feel that way anymore. Not necessarily intellectually, maybe cognitively, he still thinks, "Oh, I should keep my distance," but emotionally, he is for sure like he feels bad that she feels like she should be distant from him.
Mm-hmm. Do you think he's more cognizant of the fact that he's not following his own rules?
I think by the end of the chapter, he is.
Yeah. We can talk about that more than that. I just was like, I don't think he's in as much denial as I was assuming.
Yeah, I think this is part of that realization that he's upset that Sam is upset. And he wants to bridge that. And so we see, yeah, totally. Yeah.
Not just sex.
Yeah. So we see Sam from Charles' perspective. She's walking in front of him and she says, "I suppose," what?
Yeah, her back to him. That's like very clear language, we're apart.
Yeah. So I guess this is like uncomfortable for her to say to his face. And so she can just say it as she walks in front of him. And she says, "I suppose touch is very important to me and I use it to reinforce what I say." So I guess she has some awareness of what her body does to other people.
She likes being touched. She likes to touch. She's a physical person. Probably physically starved, to be honest.
Probably. Yeah, probably. Yeah, living alone and just now realizing that she's a sexual being. Yeah.
Well, and think about her fantasies that she's had. They're very explicit, and I feel like they're very, very touch oriented. So I feel like, she's been kind of touch starved for so long, and now she wants to experience all facets of touch. And I'm very similar to this. I mean, I think a lot of us are. If you have a connection with somebody or you want to convey a message, you lean in and touch them in some way, so makes sense.
Yeah, I guess it depends on the person. I have to be very aware of touch in my job. Obviously, work is different, but with like as a music therapist, sometimes touch is appropriate, sometimes it's not. But
absolutely.
Like personal relationships, I'm not really a touchy person, but Sam is clearly. And she says, "But with you, I should take a more hands-off approach, at least while in public."
Well, think about her family. I mean, Mr. Young, he's a very touchy person. So she just grew up around, I mean, even not obviously sexually, but just, hugs and snuggles. And I feel like they were a very cuddly family. So, so I feel like you kind of bring that, you kind of take that from your family life and alter a little bit. And I'm a very I tease my husband and say, I'm sorry, I'm needy. You can't, you got to come home, and I'm needy, just because I want to snuggle, not anything else. It's just, I just need a hug or something like that. So I guess I kind of relate to Samara in this instance. What?
No. I'm just laughing because I'm thinking that my husband is also a snuggler, and I like that too. But this is a particular face he makes when he wants me to come to bed. He's like, puts on this baby face, his puppy eyes, like.
That's cute.
So that's what I was thinking of.
Oh, that's adorable.
Cute.
Can you imagine what Charles was thinking when she said, I think I should take a hands-off approach?
Like, no, please, no.
Wouldn't it be great if they could just get to the point where she could just torture him at work just by little looks and nudges and everything, and he's forced to keep hands off? But then, see, that is golden for me. That would be awesome. But she's not quite there yet. She can't quite own it yet.
She's doing it inadvertently.
Definitely.
So she continues, sorry for getting carried away and forgetting. It won't happen again. And we see Charles' face, and he's like, ugh.
Yes.
Let me talk.
Why did I say
Like,
that?
that's not what I want. Yeah. And then we see Bowser. There's my good boy. Did you miss me? Ah! Yeah, we should go for a nice walk today.
That was very good, yeah.
He's so cute, that little puppy. Oh, he's adorable. And we see Charles come in, and he says, Samara, please give me a chance to explain my behavior for today. And she says, instead, it's okay, Charles. You don't need to rehash things. I'm just adjusting to the stipulations of our agreement.
He's trying so hard to follow what he originally stated, and he's just not there. He does not want to follow this so-called contract that he laid out in advance. This is just not, this isn't going to happen for him.
Well, and I think also he needs to be really clear, because he was so clear in the beginning. He was like, if you want a relationship, I'm not the person for you. If you're okay with just physical stuff, we can explore and see where that goes. And so she's like, oh yeah, I need to remind myself that's what's happening. And so he needs to be really clear again. Wait, actually, I want to change that.
We need to discuss, because he definitely was not feeling the same when he was in the elevator when Rosewood was in the elevator. They never even cuddled after the fact, right? And that's definitely not the case when he's with Samara. So I don't know.
So he closes the door and says, I would prefer it if I did explain things, because I would like to make a few things clear. I feel like the door closing is like putting a punctuation mark on what he's saying. He's like really trying to bring attention, like, listen to me, please.
We are finally behind closed doors, and I am going to explain to you what the hell was going on in that elevator. Because,
yeah. Yep. I don't know. It also feels more like commanding.
He's taking command of the situation right now. That's for sure.
Yeah. For me, I felt like, it was just the way to allow him to get physical,
Yeah.
That privacy.
Yeah, totally. Definitely part of it. And so she stands up and says, all right, if that's how you feel, I just don't want for you to feel like you have to repeat yourself again. But don't think I'm upset or anything. And sweet Charles is right behind her. She stands up, and oh boy, he is right there.
She is shocked. Super
Yes.
blushy.
Yes. Big old
With
hug.
Yep. Big bear hug. Doesn't stay a bear hug.
Sorry. I guess what's your cue, Sabra?
My cue. Hey, listen.
Describe
Describe.
All
right. Okay. I have so many mixed feelings about all of this. Okay. So we've got a full panel of Charles standing behind her, and he's got a hand around her waist and a hand around her shoulders, and he's just right now it's her waist, lower waist. It's
okay. Waist is up here. It's getting a little lower, but fine.
Yeah. And he's pressing her into him, and I wasn't trying to be cold towards you, Bunty. I was instead struggling to keep my cool, which is something we all love to make our men to do. We want them to struggle. So good job, Bunty. Too bad you weren't in the know at the time. So now he's whispering in her ear, and we can see the lust appearing in Bunty's eyes. Wait. Oh, I was going to say it looks like fire flames, but I think that's just her pupil. I was just zooming in. But she's definitely feeling a little bit lusty herself, blushing profusely. And he says, "You're not the only one whose body was aching after last night." A little steamy. Though I think mine was aching for a different reason. And we see a panel of, he is right there behind her, and he is using his hands to start to caress her, we'll say.
And to push her back into him so she can feel
Definitely why he was aching. Definitely why he was aching. I think he might have still had a case of blue balls. Not entirely, but my goodness, I think, we'll just keep going. I wanted to be slow and gentle with you last night since it was your first time. But instead of it satiating my desires, he's shifting. Definitely. I don't even know how to describe this. It's intense in a very good way, we'll say.
Monkey does a really good job of making it explicit without actually showing anything explicit.
Yeah, I mean, we are just seeing their faces, and you can see that Sam is definitely feeling something intense right now, and Charles is gripping her shirt so tightly. He's definitely that's what he is. He's definitely okay.
There's a phrase in Hebrew, yavin, which is "He who understands will understand," meaning if you get it, you get it. So.
Yeah. I feel like he's just trying to express to her exactly how intense she makes him feel, and what he is wanting and what he is desiring, because he is very much a sexual being, and he's been holding back. He's been trying to control himself for so long that he's hoping that at this point she's a little less nervous and he can kind of let go a little bit more, I think.
It's much more direct.
What?
Yeah, it's much more. I mean, what he's doing is pretty forward, right? It's not like letting her take the lead. It's not, it's not like slow foreplay. It's not like, gentle touches first. No, it's direct.
Yeah, it's like, this is what I need. This is what's going on. This is how you make me feel. And I'm not just coldly walking behind you. I am wound up like a cord and just like a spring, and I just can't contain it much longer. I'm going crazy. He whispers in her ear, the sounds you make, the way your body reacts to my touch, and she's jumping and twitching, and she's feeling good inside, we'll say that. It only makes me hunger for more. Makes us hungry for more too, Charles. It really does. All right, Kate. I wanted to press you against the elevator wall and consume you. Would you like to know too much information?
I guess.
Yes. Okay. Well, this will actually be kind of funny for you since you're pregnant. So I'm currently nursing. My milk dropped at that point. Just saying.
That is so funny.
That's so weird.
I've never experienced that.
Really?
No.
Yeah. My milk drops at really weird moments.
That's interesting. But I will tell you, I got very annoyed at breastfeeding by the time my kids were like 7, 8 months, because I felt like it was sexual. And I was like, I know my breasts were literally invented or whatever for babies. But like, as they got past like newborn stage, I was like, oh my God, why are you sucking at my breast? This is not for I was like, I started getting grossed out by it. So I was like, this is not for babies. But it was ridiculous. But yeah.
That is so funny. I didn't get quite to that point, but my first two deliveries, I guess you could say, whenever me and my husband had intercourse, my milk would always drop after. It was so embarrassing at the time too. I know it is. Yeah, it's like, just, you obviously can't help it. But when I read that, it was, my
So
body
hot.
definitely reacted. Yes, it was very, very hot.
Wow. So
Too much information, I know. And
not too much, don't worry.
it is very hot. The fact that my milk drop isn't hot, but this is hot.
Well, I don't know.
My husband, no. I don't think while I'm nursing, my husband even wants to touch him. He's too worried. Like, I don't want you to get anything on me.
That's hilarious. I think it's just a testament to like Monkey's effect on us. You know,
Yes.
it's like she's such a good storyteller.
That's a good compliment to her.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, especially since we can't see his hands. We know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. Rub.
They're rub. Yes. Rub-a-dub-dub. She's trembling. Yeah. But yes. And
This is the most explicit, because I mean, I'm just curious. To me, this felt like it was the most explicit thing I've seen on Webtoon. Y'all, okay.
On Webtoon or in her?
Like, it's not in terms of skin, because you don't see any skin, but just in terms of like what's being implied.
Well, I think it definitely was the most sexually effective thing I've seen. I don't know, him pulling down her zipper and the knuckles on her back, on her spine, that one episode, that was pretty good too. So she's just very talented. She's very talented. We've got Samara biting her lip, and he says, I wanted to press you up against the elevator wall and consume you, but we were at the office and you were exhausted. I had to keep my distance. Okay. Then why didn't you just say that? She tries to say. Again, she's still got lust in her eyes and she's trembling. She's definitely feeling it because I didn't want. Yeah. Again, rub. Oh my gosh. Okay. Because I didn't want for you to think you left me unsatisfied. It's very considerate, but holy Hannah, dude. When in fact I was when I was in fact burning up inside. I wonder. I know. This is so hot. This is so hot. And the fact that his shirt is slightly unbuttoned, he's not wearing a tie, he's just gorgeous.
Yeah.
And then she subconsciously likes a little dominance on her, which is, I wish it was a little bit the other way, in all honesty. Like, I wish she would experience being more dominant, but when she has her fantasies, she's being submissive. And so I feel like this is just her reacting emotionally, not just physically, to what he's doing. Heck, we responded physically to what he was doing and emotionally to what he was doing.
We're just reading it.
What?
No, we're just reading it.
I know. The next panel, all we see are their feet, which his are very firm on the ground, but hers are trembling and her toes are curled. She's just standing on one of her toes, and he asks, do you want me to stop, Samara? Which is good, but I also think he's just kind of teasing her a little bit. Do you want me to stop? Because I know you don't want me to stop, but I'm going to ask you anyway, out of the courtesy of my heart.
Maybe
No, but it
feel good about when she says no.
Yeah, because you know she doesn't want to stop, and I don't think he thinks that, but she says, no, but if you don't stop, I'll lots of ha's there. And
It's
she
so like-
definitely what?
Yeah, it focuses on Bowser. He's like,
Yes, now we're
what's going on? Why is Sam
Mom?
being so
What's
weird?
going on? Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't start barking. What's
I would have
going
ruined
on?
the moment.
That would have ruined the moment. But she definitely comes to completion, and he looks very proud of himself, and he's holding her up as she's panting and trembling and kind of just doubled over.
That is a smirk. That is totally
That is
Yes.
definitely,
He's
he's
very
definitely
self-satisfied.
smirking. Yes. Which is so funny because he's still just feeding his own fire right now without coming to he's still burning inside. He's still burning inside. He's just feeding the flames as opposed to finding a way to douse them, I guess. It's like, yes. So she's trembling and panting, and he's looking at her, and that's a good little preemie. And he chuckles.
Oh my God.
What a jerk. I would have smacked him.
Yeah, exactly. Physical assault.
Yeah. Oh, it was funny the first time. Now I'm gonna just smack you. Don't keep bringing that up every time you make me come.
Oh,
Yes.
you bet he will. You bet he will. He's definitely gonna do this. If this is what he does, and when he's still trying to be, you know, like in the beginning when you try to impress them, yeah, he's gonna keep doing it.
Yes. Well, so I think, and we all do this. We all do this. My husband knows that if he like plays with the hair on the back of my neck, he'll make me just like, ah! Like I've seen a spider or something like that, and that he loves doing that just because he likes to see the reaction. So I feel like it's kind of the similar thing. It's like this inside joke. I'm going to do this to you because I know what I'm going to get from it, and I'm just going to tease you about it later. And yeah. So,
Sorry.
any more thoughts?
Very effective. Very steamy.
Very
And
steamy.
yeah.
I do have to admit, even while it was very, very steamy, I was a little worried about Bowser.
Really?
Not gonna lie. And then
Wait,
when
how?
Mostly like the way Mongi's drawing it. So, for example, the panel where she's standing up after she's given him some scritches, and she stands up and you see him smiling and her fingers kind of leaving. I don't know, just the focus on it. And then hear him watching what's going on, a little confused. And then we see the panel, it's night now. They've been together for a few hours now. And you see poor Bowser outside her bedroom door whining. This is tragic. This is so sad. His ears are back. And I'm kind of wondering how he feels about Charles at this moment. He
Taking his love away. He needs to have his princess. What's that little princess doll he has?
I know,
her.
yeah.
Everyone has their love, you know?
Yep. So I'm just, we've all been kind of in awe that Bowser absolutely adores Charles and doesn't like Marshall. And so I'm wondering if we're getting ready to see a switch here. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe he'll just go pout to Marshall. My mom's busy again. Will you pay attention to me? You'll love me. But to be fair, you need some emotional love. Your pets can't have all of it. So here we come to the panels that had my my whole emotions going haywire after this. So I kind of want to hear what your guys' thoughts are on this. So we see that they're in her bedroom. He is looking at her, laying down in bed. You see him, and he's just staring at her, just gazing. And you see that she is sleeping. She's sleeping softly, and he's just staring at her, just gazing. It's actually really quite cute.
Looks very contemplative.
Yeah, maybe this is where he's coming to his realization of what his real feelings are about his contract and where she stands. Then we see a picture of his hearts, which we haven't seen in a little while, and they're all thawed out. It says thawed. He looks at her again, a little bit closer, and the next panel we see they're glowing. All of his hearts are glowing.
I think this is Sam's hearts.
These ones I think are his. Currently.
I think they're Sam's because his are.
So do you think his are the thawed ones?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then Sam's are the white background, the glowing ones.
Okay, I see that. Okay. And he's looking at her, and we do know that she has 3 glowing hearts, right? So he is looking at her. He lifts up his hand and he brushes her hair. And then we see, you know what? You are right. I see this now. So we have the glowing hearts and the thawed hearts. The glowing hearts are on top and the thawed hearts on the bottom. The thawed hearts are a little bit gray on the bottom, and the glowing hearts that has the white, it's kind of fading into each other. But then it's ignite.
Ignited by
his ignite. The thawed ones ignite. And now the background is completely black. And the 2 rows of 3 hearts are now chained together, clink. And we see them lying in bed, and we see all of these chains, like figment chains, kind of emerging from Charles and wrapping around Samara. And we just see this one word that says mine. Dum, 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 dum.
Charles.
I know. So I have lots of thoughts. But my first reaction is no! No! Because the last thing I want is Charles to be a villain. I do not want him to be a villain. But this behavior, it looks toxic. Toxic. And well, so hear me out. It looks toxic. He has yet to do anything to act upon these thoughts of his. So I'm gonna hope for the best, because I still really adore this character. The way she's written him, he's an amazing character. And I do have one question though. Is he reverting back to past behavior, or is this new behavior?
Doesn't seem like he behaved. Wow, you know what? If this is past behavior and he was like this with his ex-wife, maybe that would explain a little bit why she cheated on him. I don't know, but I don't think so, because the way that we're shown younger Charles is like the sweetie pie. So it would seem to be, I mean, I would say newer behavior, but I would say he definitely was influenced by what happened.
Oh, definitely. I'm wondering, so I think this behavior actually makes sense. I hate it. I was really just like, I called my husband because he wasn't home. You need to get home now. I need you to read this because I need to vent. So, and he's like, what's wrong? Are you okay? Like, honey, I just need emotional support for my web comic. It's okay. There's no tragedy, but I need you. So
you need to make her realize that webtoons would love it.
So I feel like this reaction makes sense for what he's been through and how he responded to his wife's behavior. He went from what we think is a happy marriage, in his mind, maybe, we really do not know. His wife cheated on him. He reacted not horribly. He reacted so intensely that he felt like the only way to cope was to chain up all of his emotions, right? And he decided not to involve himself emotionally with anyone else. And he's been in a lot of relationships since then. Not relationships, he's been in a lot of contracts since then, so that he can alleviate his desires, satiate himself, but never allowing himself to get emotionally involved. So what happens when you completely chain off all of your emotions, and now those emotions are released and he finally allows himself to what appears to care for someone, he is going to be possessive. He's going to go through this. I really think we're going to see a jealousy arc now from this. And I'm just wondering, is he going to go through this process and heal from it because it's new behavior, or is he going, or is it old behavior, and is he going to just be stuck in this toxic, possessive, you are mine? He just never did that with any of his other relationships, like with Rosewood and Eve. So it just doesn't make sense to me that this is his core behavior. I don't know. What do you think? I don't like it. I don't like seeing it, but so maybe I'm not trying to justify it, but I'm trying to find maybe loopholes and how I can explain his behavior and how I can hope that he can overcome it. And I don't know. What do you guys think? I talked a lot. Your turn.
Yeah, you go first, Laura.
I think a lot of what you're saying makes sense, because he has so much chained up a lot of his emotions, like allowing himself to feel something for Sam maybe is a new and scary thing for him. So the only way he knows how to cope with it is to manifests through these chains, this possessive behavior. Because if maybe he can feel like he can control that a little bit more. Yeah, it's interesting that when the 6 hearts ignite, the background like completely changes to black. Like it's not white like Sam's was. So I didn't notice that before, but I don't know. It seems a little foreboding now.
No, I agree, which is why I'm like, no, I don't. It reminds me of when we saw that kind of link when he went over to Samara, took her light and shared it with Angela that one time. Do you remember that? When it was all kind of in their, it wasn't actually happening. It was figuratively happening. So here, Charles is still in a really dark place. And he has been for a long time. I mean, and we knew that he was because of what Vicky saw. So he's reacting in the way that the thing is I just didn't see any of these little clues. I don't know what, I'm not thinking properly. There were a lot of instances where we see reactions from Charles that don't point to possessiveness. Like when he's like, I don't like this ability that I have, inability I have to say no to her. So I'm going to have to change that. Or when he tries to push away and stay away from her. But
I don't know about that. I think that you can be possessive and still also feel like you're the one who's being pushed around.
No, what I'm trying to say is I'm just trying to find out if this is his core behavior. Is Charles an overly possessive man? Or is this a response to his trauma? Either way, he has to work through it. Either way, he has to work through it. Is he possessive because of what his ex-wife did to him? And now he's finally let his heart open up. I mean, his hearts are all glowing, whether it's in light or darkness, they are all glowing. And he knows it's because of her. And then he reaches out and he's chaining their hearts together. And I'm wondering, is that because that's what he does? Is that his toxic behavior showing through now? Or is it because it's a reaction to his trauma and he has to heal and recover? Really, I'm just kind of trying to decide, where is Mangi taking this? Is it going to turn into Sam trying to save herself from a toxic relationship? Or is this still going to be a story where Charles can find redemption? Does that make sense?
I think he could find a redemption either way. Like even if it's a core behavior or if it's a newer behavior, I think he could find redemption either way. But yeah, I'm curious because until now I didn't see anything about Charles that was like disturbing. Like, okay, whatever, he has some issues, but nothing that was really, really concerning. But this is this is really concerning. And I do think it comes from his wife, because I think that because she left him, he's now so scared that it'll happen again, that once he finally opens his heart up and he takes it seriously, he's like, okay, I have to clamp down on this person and control her so that she doesn't do
How to
what my
save
wife
this person.
does.
I'm hoping that he's not going to control her. He hasn't controlled her in the past. I really don't know what's going to happen here. And I think this is why I was so emotionally distraught, because it threw me for a loop. It was definitely a twist I didn't see coming. I'm not sure if I'm happy about it, but I like I said, I do understand it. I do understand it. I always kind of thought there was going to be a jealousy arc. Because if they did get into a relationship, it would make sense. But the way 𝗟𝘂𝗍 portrays it, the way she illustrates it, whew, it's intense. These hearts igniting and chaining together, and then him just that one word, mine. To some extent, it's really cool. I really like it. My husband, he's mine. You better know that, right? But with the chains, it makes it appear toxic.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think it's surprising, just based on how severely he reacted to his divorce, like cut off all emotions basically. So when he does feel this ignite, it's so overwhelming, maybe, that the only way he knows how to deal with it is to be like this possessive. One of the top comments was really interesting. Said that this is him bringing Sam into his safe space.
Maybe
This is his way of like really truly opening up to her and like being open to the idea of a relationship.
And no, go ahead. Sorry.
I still think it's concerning. It's very concerning behavior.
Yeah. Let's look at something else real quick though. Let's just look at the point of him actually looking at her, seeing her, allowing himself to feel again, and coming to terms with the fact that he wants to feel again. He wants to be in a relationship. Now, granted, this might be a toxic relationship the way he's at it, but to be fair, he hasn't done anything yet that is toxic behavior. He hasn't done anything to Sam to control her, to prevent her from seeing her friends. I mean, we know possessive toxic behavior and what it can turn into, but the only foreboding thing that I really see also is, in all honesty, 𝗟𝘂𝘀.
Oh, okay.
No,
so I do have another foreboding thing that makes me think that, contrary to what the top commenter said, where it's like, it's an analogy for self-control. I think that, remember when 𝗟𝘂𝗍𝗀 held his stand and she felt the chains creep onto her? That was definitely a negative thing. And I don't think that was for naught. I think that this is the same. 𝗟𝘂𝗍𝗀 picked up on something dangerous about him.
Yeah.
I do have a word to say about that. One of the things I've discovered about life, people, relationships is that, people can be very, very, very complicated and some people can have very, very bad parts to them. This kind of brings to mind my mother's father is still alive. Very, very, let's just say, complicated person. He was far too smart for his own good, like skipped 2 classes. He's probably like one of those geniuses with poor social skills. And when he married my grandmother, they were very much in love, like they were head over heels. And he was emotionally not equipped to be in a relationship. I don't think they knew about therapy in those days. And their relationship just went down the drain. Like it was just horribly toxic, horrible. And could he have been saved, right? If he had had the proper help, if his, if there was this concept of therapy around him, I don't know, probably. I'm assuming maybe he would come and helped a little bit. I don't know. It's hard to, think about these things. But, I look at him and he's like a tragedy, right? He's a man who has like a lot of he's super intelligent, he still is, but he really destroyed his relationship with almost everyone around him because he does not have social skills. Let's just say that, right? I mean, but my mother tells me some stories. Like she said that her sister found their love letters from the beginning of their relationship. I mean, when she knew them, they were like, they either were super fighting and then at some point they stopped talking to each other and then they just that's really, really weird relationship. But he would leave notes, so she would cook him food, but they still didn't talk. And she had grown up with him as a very like, she said sometimes he was an amazing father or something. And if he was, when in one of his movies, he was an awful father. So she's read their that love letters, and it's such a jarring thing to realize that the person that you now come to see as like a very bad person was trying in the beginning of his relationship. Like he really loved her, and it all went down the drain because of whatever, the way that he was born, that never got helped. And I was listening to this talk by Aaron Sorkin, who writes a lot of screenplays and a lot of movies. And one of the things he said was that when you're writing a villain, your villain should never be a villain to you, because you should understand why the villain acts like he or she does. And that made me think of Charles, right? Because up till now, we've fallen in love with Charles. He's become like, we understand him. And even now, when he's starting to potentially show toxic behavior, we understand him and we still love him. And I think that's honestly like the ability of great writing, to be able to sympathize with somebody even when they do bad things, because people are never monolithic, and
people are not black and white.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm curious to see where, how down the baddie road Charles will go, and if he'll redeem himself or not. And either way, I think it's fine either way. I like stories personally with a redemptive arc because I'm an optimist and I like when things end well. But I also understand that, like, for people like my grandfather, things don't always end well. I mean, some things got a little better. My mom now talks to him after not talking to him for 30 years. So, some things got better. But, on the whole, his life is ruined. But yeah, so anyway, I like it. And I'm curious to see what happens.
No, I agree. This is exciting. It's stressful at the same time. For me anyway.
I feel like it has a lot of potential for Sam to grow in a lot of different ways, because this is very, very much a foreshadowing of, things that could potentially go wrong with their relationship, Sam and Charles, and that may or may not play into their work relationship and Mr. Young, firing Charles, or Charles deciding to leave the company and maybe taking that opportunity overseas. And then Mr. Young feeling justified maybe in like sending people to spy on Sam and like meddling in her life. And like, maybe Sam would find a way to be like, well, I mean, sure, this bad thing happened, but that still is not okay for you to spy on me. And find a way to grow in that relationship too with her father.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I have no idea what Mongie is going to do. I have no theories. No theories, Mindy.
Oh.
I have no theories. So we have so many things that are getting ready to hit the fan. We have so many things. We've got the spy. We've got the person that's like trying to extort somebody for extra cash for pictures of Marshall. We have Mr. Young knowing about Charles and Sam's rendezvous. We have Bowser.
Oh, I like you got Bowser and his emotional.
I know. He didn't get his walk tonight.
He did it, and he's crying, and this is important. And then we have this new curiosity of what's going to happen. I think another reason why I really do not want Charles to be a villain is because, and I love what you said, it's like we understand Charles. I don't understand it entirely, but we understand his behavior and we still love him, even if he is starting to show some toxic behavior. But I really, in the beginning, Mr. Young said, "You're too good looking to not be the villain." And it was just, he was painted the villain. And I don't like it when somebody is painted something and they can't rise above it. Right.
Well, he still can.
Well, no, like I don't like that feeling. So I want them to be able to. So I'm really hoping that this is just new behavior. He's responding to the trauma of his wife, and he's capable of recovering from this. Again, I still would like them to be together, but I also want, even though they're fictional characters, I want what's best for them. But I'm just curious on what we've got coming. We've got another episode with them in it next, because we got another little sneak peek
Nice.
from it. I mean, she posted it quite a few weeks ago on Patreon, so we do have another episode of them. At least I have a feeling we'll get a sneak peek, another side story of other characters as well next time. But she threw me for a loop this time.
Roller coaster.
Hot and steamy, and then foreboding. Yeah. Emotional roller coaster for sure.
Right. And
So
I just
good.
want to say about the last panel. It looks like they have beige pins. It's very pretty.
They look, I mean, if the
Really
chains
graceful.
weren't there, it's a beautiful little moment. I mean, if the chains weren't even involved at all, and it was just those hearts and everything, and you didn't have the chains involved, it would be a really beautiful realization of Charles coming to with his emotions and realizing this is not a contract. I don't want to be pushed away emotionally from her. I want this relationship. I want to try. But putting in those chains makes it super stressful, because we do not fully understand exactly what that is going to entail and how he's going to react to it and what he's going to do now that he's declared she's mine.
Yes.
I mean, it could be a cute little hearts thing. Mine. I want you. I want this relationship to work. I want to try, but it's mine. You guys are fabulous. This is always so fun when we get together, and you help me vent out all of my emotions. I can sleep peacefully now that it's all out of my system.
That's good.
You're pretty fabulous also.
Yeah.
I get way too emotionally involved with fictional stories.
That's what life's about. I mean, I remember the first time, not the first time, but if you ever read, oh my gosh, it's like I read a guy named Charles too, and it's all about this. You ever read Eight Cousins and Rose in Bloom by Louisa May Alcott? So she wrote Little Women, and she wrote a lot of other novels as well. And one of them is about it's a set of two, Eight Cousins and Rose in Bloom, about this girl named Rose. Anyway, I won't give it away, the plot of this 1800s book, but basically there's a character, Charles, who's a very tragic figure. And after I read about his life, I cried for like legit hours. I was like 12. So yeah, it was fiction lives strong in our hearts because it reflects reality. So don't ever apologize. I am
Very
one
true.
of the most important things in my life. So yeah.
Thank you. I won't feel so guilty now.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. It was wonderful as always. And now we'll see what happens next week.
Stay tuned.
Yep. Hope for the best.
Thank you so much to my curtain patrons: Susie, Lady Libris, Lily, Jenny, Haley, Molly, Veronica, Emily Jo, Rochelle, Saucy Tuggles, Meg, Ann, Rose, Priya, Alexa, Misty, Laura, Joanne, Patty, Emilta, Esther, and watching people, Taurus, Poppy, Marie, Jen, Emily, Jean, Jen, Erin, D, Kay, Lily, Beckett, Miranda, Christine, Sadie, Kelly, Daniel, Louisa, Mr. Gastaldo, and Kaylee. Your support is truly appreciated.